Here we go. All right. So this morning I'm going to be chatting with Veronica, and what I'm going to ask you to do, Veronica, is just introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you and your family, about Matthew and Ryan, and where you live, so that everybody knows who you are.
Okay, well, we are a family of three. We live in Hoedspruit in the Limpopo province. Matthew, my son, is 7 years old. He has a rare brain malformation called colloprosencephaly, which means that his forebrain hasn't divided. It causes a whole bunch of issues, neurologically and physiologically and all sorts of things. So we do, he needs 24/7 care. We do shifts with him, and we live in our garage, which we call our MICU, our Matthew Intensive Care Unit. Yeah, and that's, do I speak now about my oils or not?
It's fine if you want to.
I'll wait for your question.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So, how was it when you first found out about what was happening with Matthew, and maybe tell a little bit of a backstory there? I know your testimony, so yeah, just maybe share a little bit about that.
Okay, so I am a chartered accountant. I was a director in an audit firm, and I managed a branch here in Hoedspruit. Very much career-driven, working late nights. Yeah, that was pretty much our focus. Ryan and I were living past one another. This is now before Matthew was born. We were pretty much on a road to self-destruction, very slow, but very sure. And then we fell pregnant with Matthew. We were elated. We prayed for a child. And at our 20-week ultrasound, our lives changed forever. We found out that our son, well, at that point, we didn't know what the gender was. But at that 20-week ultrasound, and that he also had a life-threatening condition, considered incompatible with life. They diagnosed him with colloprosencephaly, cleft lip, and all the complications that go with that. They did say that he probably would not be born alive, and I would probably have the stillbirth. That just rocked our world. The doctor suggested that we could do tests to confirm the diagnosis and terminate the pregnancy. At that point, we just decided absolutely not. We're not going to do any tests, and we decided to give our child a chance to live. And from there, it was 18 weeks of praying with friends and family for a miracle. What happened was, when I need to backtrack a whole bunch of years. So in April when was it? I can't even remember the date. 2001, April 2001. I was single and I was studying while I was working full time for the firm that I eventually became a director of. And I felt God pop some words in my heart, and I wrote them down in a piece of paper, and I chucked the piece of paper in a drawer, thinking it's utterly ridiculous. And every time we moved or I cleaned out the drawers and stuff, I'd come across this piece of paper and I'd be tempted to throw away, but I just tossed it back to keep. And it was when we were in the parking lot after having chatted to the doctor at our 20-week ultrasound. And we were in tears about the diagnosis and what this meant for us and our child and the possibility of not even meeting him, that God reminded me of that piece of paper. And what that paper said was that my firstborn would be a boy. And just having confirmed that day the gender of our child, that he was a boy, we knew that the other part of that promise had to be, it will be fulfilled. And the other part of that promise on that piece of paper was he will be a miracle. So for the next 18 weeks, we prayed for that miracle, the miracle that we envisioned. And that was that Matthew would be born alive and well and no complications and no malformations, and that life would just continue perfectly. but that didn't happen. And on the 3rd of February in 2014, Matthew was born by emergency C-section, with all the complications and complexities that go with holoprosencephaly. And it's been a journey in discovering how he is a miracle, though. God did not fail on his promise. It's just that miracles do happen. It's not always the miracles we want, but it's the miracles we need. Yes, and Matthew has changed our lives, and perhaps that's the greater miracle. It's a miracle that he's still alive, because children with his condition, 3% of the fetuses that are born with holoprosencephaly don't make it to be born alive, and a vast majority of those don't even make it past the first 6 months of life. And he's 7 years old, so that in itself is a miracle. But perhaps the bigger miracle is how he's changed our lives.
All right.
Well, in the meantime, sorry, while journeying with Matthew, part of that was eventually I resigned as a director, and in order to look after him, as his needs became more complicated, and we moved out of our house and into our garage, our MICU, and we're now renting out the house in order to supplement our income, the reduction in income because I resigned, and that's where we are at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, so when I met you, I just remember meeting you at the Family Hope Centre's Parent Training Conference. I remember you saying you weren't supposed to be there. you were sitting in front of me, and I didn't know much. I mean, we didn't chat too much about what each of us were dealing with, but I mean, over the years we've become friends and we've gotten to know each other, and it's such a blessing to be known as your friend. I just want to say that. But I want to know how did things change for you after the Family Hope Centre's parent training conference, and on this journey of health, what has changed for your whole family, and not just for Matty, for you and Ryan as well?
So when we got to the point, I think it was when Matthew was about 2 years old, we realized that we are living in his room, literally, when he was staying in the house. And it was at that point also that I resigned as director. We made a whole lifestyle change. We realized we couldn't carry on the way we were. And at that stage, we didn't know what there was actually a word called minimalism or, something like that. So we just knew we had to downscale. So we got rid of everything that did not serve us in taking care of Matthew, and that's when we converted the flat. And shortly after that, Family Hope Centre via Brainchild Fund came across our path. And so we were already on a journey to try and find a simpler, slower way of living, but Family Hope Centre just concreted it all. And they gave us hope. We had reached a point where Matthew's seizures were 200 a day, and he was on 7 anti-epileptic medications, and they were not working. We were battling to get food in him, so he's tube fed. He's on oxygen, sometimes a high flow machine. He gets fed with a pump and all sorts of things. And we were really at the end of our options medically to try and give him just sort of some bit of a quality of life. And what Family Hope Centre gave us was that hope that there is hope to provide him with that quality of life. And we started the therapy, the program that they wrote for us, and over a period of, I think it was about 3 years, we managed to wean him up with 3 anti-epileptic medications, which made a huge difference already for him. And even with that journey, though, it was very slow with Matthew because of all of the medical complications. And that's when the oil started.
That's where you and I connected. And I sent you one oil. It was spikenard, just on a whim.
Now, what actually happened, my gateway oil was closed, actually. So Matthew ended up in the hospital in 2019. Remember, April, May 2019, with pneumonia and infection and all sorts of things. And we ended up twice at the hospital, and the second time we actually came back with a high flow machine. So he needed to be on the high flow. So another addition to our medical equipment. And because of the endocrine issues, so a lot of his issues is endocrine related, which means his electrolyte balance is always out. So when his sodium is extremely high, he has a candida flare-up that is absolutely crazy. His mouth gets so crusted with the candida and he's in extreme pain. And because we had known one another and you'd be chatting to me about the oils, you told me that doTERRA essential oils can actually be used internally. And because I had tried everything and nothing had worked, I've got nothing to lose. And I do want to try something natural because we've reached the end of our journey with medical things. So I got clove oil, clove, frank, and lemon was my first three that I got to. And at that stage, we were still getting them from the US. We didn't have them in South Africa yet.
Yeah, so muling them in and waiting 6 to 8 weeks if we were lucky to get the stuff in here. So the long wait.
Yeah, it made the world of a difference for him. The clove oil specifically, that was what I was actually aiming at. The frank obviously helped with seizures, but not overnight. I mean, Matthew's journey has been a long one, and the whole key thing on the oils is consistency. Spikenard came in, it was the second lot of oils that you sent me to give a try for his seizures. Spikenard and cheer. Cheer for mommy and daddy, and Spikenard for Matthew.
It's my favorite emotional oil, the cheer. Okay, so tell me, how has it helped you? How has it helped Matty? How has the oils helped you and Ryan? And I know it's helped your mom and your greater family now as well, but I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we were still dabbling with, because I tried to do natural stuff because the medicine hadn't worked. I was dabbling with all sorts of tinctures and other essential oil brands, the cheapy ones and the more expensive ones, the therapeutic ones. I played with all of them, and I didn't really see much of a difference. And then eventually we just got to a point where we decided, well, you know what, let's just can everything and let's just try doTERRA essential oils on Matthew, and just that, not move away from everything else, because I was still using internal on the doTERRA and then the other brands, it's expensive, so we were trying to slowly get ourselves up to building a bit of a stock with our doTERRA oils that we could then use on Matthew. And so we got to a point where we decided, right now we just cut everything else out and only use doTERRA oils, and we really saw a huge difference. I can honestly say I saw a difference in his physiology that only a mom would see because we know him so well. But his reaction to doTERRA oils, which are certified through therapeutic grade, is totally different to the other ones that we were using. And so at that point, we were still just buying oils for Matthew because they're so expensive. And we started a certain neurological protocol with him. We did not see a difference not even in the first month, but we just kept at it. And because he's so sensitive, we diluted the oils quite a bit. And over a period of I'd say probably about a year of consistently applying that protocol, we have really seen a huge difference in him. He's calmer, his seizures are less, and it is like, the only way I can explain it is that his body has reached more of a homeostasis kind of state. He's more in balance. So where we used to have terrible swings between high and low sodium, and I mean we tried everything, the medical route, trying to just use all sorts of things, but what these oils seem to have done is just brought a bit of a balance. We still get some vomits and we still get seizures and we still get where he goes very sleepy, but the swings are just so much less. And because he's now more balanced, we can now actually do more of the Family Hope Center program, which obviously has more spin-offs there. So we've been able to do a lot more of the program. And that has also helped him develop better. Where we used to, I mean, I remember we hardly ever got a smile out of him. Now a smile is almost a daily occurrence.
Awesome.
And it's made the world of a difference. And then
it does.
When we saw what it does to Matthew, we reached a point where we realized, but hang on a minute, if we don't take care of the caretakers, who's going to take care of Matthew? So that's when we decided, well, let's start trying it on ourselves as well. And And then it extended over to my mom, who's also one of our primary caretakers for Matthew, and then to our extended family. And it's been life-changing.
Yeah, that's so awesome to hear. And it's such a, I don't know, it keeps me going when I hear stories and I hear how it's helping everybody. So between then and now, you would say, what's the difference? How could you really like pinpoint what were you dealing with then and what were you dealing with now? And I mean, not just in the physiological, but in your emotional state and your own well-being. What would you say is the difference?
I think coupled with the lifestyle change, so also resigning out of public practice and putting that stress aside, I think we feel a little bit. I'd say we seem to be mastering it a little bit easier to live simply and slowly, which is what our goal is, and being more present.
Yes.
I'd say, if I want to say a before, is we were always yearning for something better than where we are now, or more than where we are now, or being dissatisfied with where we are now. And where we are now is that we're content. We're not trying to strive for something more. It's not like we don't want improvement, but there's a difference between being content and being content and still looking forward to the future, and being dissatisfied with where you are now and striving for something different in the future. And I think that's where our whole state is different.
Awesome. That is really so awesome. So if you could give some advice to someone in your situation or in a similar situation, maybe they're without hope, maybe they've given up, or their lives are so stressful, like you were saying there with being the director of the company, what kind of advice would you give them that could help them?
I can't give advice, but what I can do is share what worked for us on our journey. And what we did was cut out things that no longer served us. It sounds selfish, it does, but when you are in a fight, flight, or freeze situation, it doesn't help, what's that thing, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's not going to help to just continue trying to strive. You've got to do something. If you want a radical change, you need to make a radical decision, So radical was really just like cutting out everything that did not serve us. So looking at where you can, things that are just too much, start cutting them out. And make your world a bit smaller. It doesn't mean it's going to be smaller forever, but just smaller so that you can actually regroup as a family and find yourselves. And once you've reached that point, then you can start giving out again and making your world a little bit bigger from a foundation that's more sturdy. That's what we found us. We were just like, we were involved in ministry. We were tons of ministry. So we were giving out in a huge way, and we literally had to just shrink our world. So we just like had to drop a lot of stuff. And a lot of it didn't make sense because we felt it was stuff that God had given us. We had talents, and we're using this to spread the gospel and to help people in ministry. It doesn't make sense. You can't give that up, but we had to in order for us to survive. And it wasn't fun. It was difficult. It was very emotional. Also, getting rid of a lot of the stuff in the house that didn't serve us, all the sentimental stuff there. But it was liberating. And just cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting until we felt, okay, we're okay now. We have found one another. We're not 100% there yet. We're still on a journey. But now, where our world is very small, we can now, on a foundation that we've now managed to find, we can now start giving out slowly. And the giving out is now not out of an
Yes.
empty cup, but out of a full cup, which is actually more beneficial for everyone out there
Yes.
anyway.
Yes. Yeah, pouring from the overflow, hey. And that's a really important thing. Tell me, what fills your cup?
Matthew, smile.
Awesome. Awesome.
Now, I'm very passionate about finding ways to do things to live cheaply and healthy, because I think a lot of people, they want to live healthy, but it's expensive. And that's usually the excuse. And I'm like, no. We got to find another. That's not an excuse. There is ways to live cheaply and healthy. And I must say, if I figure something out, I'm like all excited. So maybe I'd say that fills my cup. Trying to figure out how to do stuff that is healthy, that will promote well-being, but that is cheap. So nobody has an excuse. Because I was there.
All right, so but then
what
what would you say to somebody who's maybe looking at doTERRA oils here in South Africa and saying, oh no, can't afford that, and you're talking about cheap lifestyle, cheap health. How does that work? Have you maybe changed your perspective or your priority in that sense? It's like, you know what, it's so far more worth to us than what we were paying, or what is your thoughts there?
Yeah. So personally, when we saw, so we just tried like a couple of oils. I mean, those were the first 3 oils we got. And when we realized the difference that it made, it was like, wow, okay. When we saw that, having already tried everything else and taking the cost into consideration of the everything else. So the traveling to the doctor appointments, trying out new medications, and then the medications to sort out the side effects of the other medications. And I'm not saying that you need to stop medications. My son is still on medications. He needs endocrine medications. He's still on seizure medication. So I'm not saying you must stop medications. But there's a lot of excess that natural alternatives really can help for if you just open for it. And when we saw that the oils did what they did, we just decided, you know what, we so want this for our child and for ourselves that we are willing to sacrifice something else in order to pay for that. And then slowly but surely we started saving up using the tools that doTERRA does provide, like the LRP program with 3 points in order to build up our stock. I mean, I was very stubborn in the beginning. I wish I'd done it a long time ago. You hacked at me until I actually signed up for the LRP. So I've been in that mindset. No, but I can't buy oils every month. But if you just realize what the oils do and compare that to the cost of what you have been paying. And you go and compare the cost per drop and how much you're going to use over a period of time. I mean, I go into panic mode, so I'm a very planned, prepared person. So I would try and stock Matthew's medications and all of the herbal tinctures that I thought was working. I mean, I'm still sitting with so many herbal tinctures I'm not using anymore because we used the oils, and I'd stocked up on it. And if I think about the money that I was prepared to put out there to stock up on stuff, especially with COVID, scared the stuff was out of stock, and what I'm paying for the essential oils, which are more effective for us, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It definitely is cheaper in that sense. And then also just like your cleaning materials, you don't need all of these chemical things. You can do a lot with vinegar, bicarb, and washing soda.
Here we go, and a little bit of lemon.
Yes, so that's part of the saving. Is I think it happens at the same time. It's taking away the expenses that you can actually take away in exchange for something healthier. So by living healthier, you actually are living cheaper. So it's sort of like a circular reference.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So tell me about how you see the success in your family. What is your idea of success? Has it changed as well?
Yes. So before Matthew was born, my idea of success was reaching the top points of my career, which would be a director in an audit firm and making lots of money. Our heart was still ministry driven then. So the reason why I'd like to make lots of money was so that I could give out and bless other people. I can't help myself but share and help them. That's just OCD about that. But our perspective has changed with our journey with Matthew in the sense of money is not everything. Being your health is definitely, I mean, if I could get rid of pain for every person in my family and extended family, that would mean the world to me.
Yeah.
Just healthier living, your health and your mental wellness, being able to cope with the cards that you've been dealt with in life. That for me is now the priority and important.
Yeah, and reaching that and having that is actually very successful. And
Yes.
now, okay, so going forward, you have now started sharing more with your family and friends about whales. Are you planning on doing more, or is this just going to be what it is?
I think at this stage, the way I see it is that, like I said, I'm obsessive compulsive about sharing what I feel very passionate about. So, which is lifestyle change and living, differently and out of the box. And, there is a way. There has to be a way. So, I can't help myself but share. So any poor person who comes across my path and happens to give me just a little squeak of something that's bothering them will receive a whole bulldozer effect of options that they can try. So because of this OCD of mine, I share whales. And people often ask, well, how can we help you on your journey? And I see it as a way that people can actually help us. So in my sharing about what has helped our journey and change our lives, if what I share with other people actually resonates with them and they feel that they would like to make a lifestyle change, they can help our journey by joining us in getting a doTERRA account or whichever way, joining our doTERRA journey, so that I can earn a little bit of commissions on what they are in any case going to buy for their lifestyle. And then my goal is that we can actually pay for the oils that we use for Matthew and ourselves. That's where we are at this stage. So it's more of an invitation to an investment, an opportunity to help us on our journey, which will actually it's not just giving money away. It's actually making investment in your own lifestyle change, in your own health, in your own mental wellness. And a spin-off of that would then be helping us to pay for the oils for Matthew and for ourselves. And an even greater spin-off is, if you look at the heart of doTERRA, is you're helping a lot of third world countries, small-scale farmers earn a living and better their lives in the way that doTERRA has structured their sourcing, the co-impact sourcing and the healing hand.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. And I just want to say how proud I am of you and Ryan, and now your mom too, and the rest of your family who are just jumping on board with just being healthier and doing things more naturally to help you. But if there's one oil that you cannot do without, please let us know what it is for you.
Frankincense.
Frankincense. All right. Okay, the king of oils.
Yeah, if we could get spikenard in South Africa.
The reason?
It's an amazing all-rounder oil. It's cellular health. Besides it being the king of oils in terms of seizures for Matthew, it's a calming oil. It's just everything. When in doubt, you go to Frank. So it's got all of the properties. It really is antibacterial. It's just everything. So yeah, when in doubt, go to Frank.
All right, one last one. What is your favorite emotional oil?
A blend.
Yeah.
Or just a single oil.
It doesn't
I
matter.
love cheer.
Yeah, me too.
I still have that little sample bottle that you sent me. Like, I think, what was it? Almost a year ago. I can't remember.
Yeah, probably
I
about
still
a
have
year ago.
that. I've been very sparingly using it because I know that's the neat oil. I know that the touch roller has now just come out. So, but yeah, that one, man.
It really is a great one to have. All right, so I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with me, Veronica. And it is really awesome to hear your full journey all in one go. But I mean, I've heard it and seen it and lived with it in the last year or so with you guys, and it's really been such a privilege to know you and be part of your journey as well. And I just want to say bless you guys and thank you so much for chatting with me. It's been such a blessing. I pray that you guys will have a blessed day further.
And thank you for everything that you've input in us. If it wasn't for your nagging and in a good way, we wouldn't be where we are in our journey. So yeah, thank you for your nagging.
I hope it's not doesn't sound like an old nag.
No, not at all. It's positive nagging. Some people like me are stubborn, and we need to hear things over and over again. I do believe that everybody's on their own journey, and some people are just ready to make the next step, and some people aren't. And if we're not going to share what we have and what we've experienced, those who do end up at the right place at the right time in their journey, if we don't give them that beacon of hope, then they've got nothing to pick up when they are ready to pick it up. So you were giving us those beacons, and our journey just happened to collide at the right time, the right place. And because you've given us that beacon, we could pick it up from there. So thank you for being a beacon of hope.
Oh, bless you. Oh, bless you. Okay, chat soon. Okay. Bless you guys.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye.